It has been exactly 1 year since the Hypnotist Sappho drama went down, and in typical fashion, I decided to take a trip down memory lane to see what transpired afterwards. Let's take a look together and see what's happened a whole year later, because unfortunately for us, a lot of stuff has gone down since then. Before we get into it though, did you know this train wreck of a human being had much more going on behind the scenes? Some stuff starting way before she even posted her now infamous coming out video. To give a quick rundown on who Sappho is, she is a 21 to 22 year old who we will quickly learn about as the video progresses. Very little is known about her life before taking on a Sappho name, but she has said that she would turn to animals for comfort to get away from her shitty family life as a child.
We had 2 golden Labrador retrievers that I would go and cuddle up with and fall asleep with, and they ended up being my place of safety and comfort and warmth.
I do want to warn you now, take anything she says with a huge grain of salt, and you'll understand why as we go on throughout the video. Sappho would join the Air Force after graduating high school and do a bunch of IT work for the organization. Her earliest internet activity could be traced down to a 2018 GitHub account, Succubus Sappho, and tracing the profile pic will lead to another GitHub account with the same pic listing some work done on a program for the virtual pet game Animal Jam. Years go by without anything crazy going on about. Sappho would make other accounts related to Animal Jam and its amino page, and then around summer of 2021 she would find interest in a new hobby, VR chat, and more specifically, VR chat hypnosis. Throughout the summer of 2021, she would practice her newfound hypnosis interest onto other people throughout different worlds in VR chat, and would even upload some of the videos to her YouTube channel. Of course, this wasn't only for safe for work purposes, as she would also practice her now NSFW hypnosis kink onto those that were willing to give it a shot. She would brand herself as a hypnotherapist, but even at that, people were wary of the claim as they got the feeling she got far more enjoyment than just helping people, if you catch my drift. She would even come out and say during a session that things went in a different direction, and generally people got the idea that Sappho clearly had ulterior motives in mind, but nothing concrete other than a bad feeling, that is, until August rolled about. Sappho would come into contact with a person named Gray in VR chat sometime in August 2021. She would start to take advantage of Gray, who was emotionally unstable at the time as they had just broken up with their boyfriend. On top of that, Gray was 16 years old at the time, making them underage when they were speaking with Sappho. She would use their naivety and emotionally vulnerable state to play out her kinks on Gray, culminating in an NSFW encounter in VR chat. Gray would come to realize that what Sappho was doing was illegal and wrong, told the admins of the world she would frequent what had gone on between the two of them, and they would subsequently ban her from all the worlds. Sappho would try to shift the blame onto Gray and accuse them of working to ruin her reputation, but by that point it was too late as the truth had already been out. Not surprising, Sappho had also made her own Discord server called Mama Sappho's Hypnotherapy. The server was open to anyone aged 13+, despite majority of the people joining being those interested coming from 18+ hypnosis kink groups throughout VR chat and other social sites. There was a general unease of having children able to join and interact in the server given its subject matter, but Sappho and one of her mods named Blue were against any sort of age gating. It turns out that part of it was because Blue was actually 17 years old, yet had access to all the 18+ channels, and Sappho would even send a pic of her toy in one of those channels with Blue replying positively. YouTuber Coyote Lovely would confront her about this, and she would say that the mods got access to all channels, but that somehow Blue got mod when he abused his powers to get the 18+ role. It's hard to catch, but you can see the first instance of many of her lies saying how the mods have access to all channels, yet says that Blue abused powers to give themselves access to all channels. Sappho eventually fesses up and admits she gave Blue access to the 18+ role despite being underage, and then tries to play it off saying how it's not a big deal because he's 17 and the age of consent in Canada is 16. Despite having to lie to people for months about how Blue got access to the 18+ role, it's also illegal in Canada to show explicit material to anyone under the age of 18, meaning that Sappho knew what she was doing was wrong and only fessed up to it after she got caught, otherwise she wouldn't have lied in the first place. Once September rolled about, Sappho would add a new server channel dedicated to NSFW feral drawings. One of her mods, Match a Tiger, would confront her about this, asking why she added them and if she was a zoophile. She would dodge the question for a bit before admitting she thinks animals can consent to activity with humans and sent a link to an episode of the Zooier Than Thou podcast to show that zoophiles are misunderstood. Matcha would cut ties immediately and posted a tweet longer on September 8th exposing Sappho for supporting animal abuse, and moderators from other social groups would start to ban her left and right as her true colors started to come out. Instead of letting these people expose her slowly throughout Discord and other social groups, she instead decided to take matters into her own hands and not let those people dictate the direction her life was heading in. On September 11th, 2021, Sappho would become the second worst thing to happen on that date, as she would release Coming Out About Things, the infamous video of her coming out with her new mysterious secret that she wanted to share with the world. The video starts off like any other coming out video, talking about how 1960s media was very anti-LGBT, and how that influence has faltered in modern days as it has become more accepted in society. Nothing too crazy, but then shit hits the fan around 3 minutes in, when Sappho outright comes out as a zoophile.
And I want to clear the air and say that, for the record, I am a zoophile. You did not mishear that. I am a zoophile. I do not have a thing for humans. I am more attracted to dogs like German Shepherds. If you are willing to stay and listen to my view and explanation.
Funny how she says she doesn't have a thing for humans, yet her experience with Grace says otherwise, but I digress. She goes on to mention the zoo sadism leaks of 2018 and tries to justify herself, saying she would never do any of that stuff as she truly loves animals, and others like her despise what happened, as if that makes things any better.
I couldn't imagine somebody doing that sort of shit to my animals. My mate, I can't imagine who would harm another living being in those ways. And to be 100% clear, I am not like that. Most of the zoo community is also not like that and utterly despises it.
Sappho drones on a bit about some arbitrary rules that she and others follow, and talks about how she wouldn't force anything with an animal, but that if the animal wanted to do something, why should she deny them?
If my mate came up to me, loved me, and wanted something more in that moment, why would I deny them that need?
She tries to convince people that she's normal and that she wants to dedicate her time to show that people like her aren't sick in the head, but just misunderstood, before transitioning into an interview with a friend of hers who talks about a dog of his own. The interview is nothing special at all. Sappho obviously included it to paint things as a beautiful love story, but given the context of what the conversation is about, it just comes off as disgusting to listen to. One part I found interesting, however, was that before the interview, Sappho says that anyone dealing with an underage animal is considered a pedo.
Playing with an animal that is not sexually mature is like the equivalent of pedophilia, and it's treated as such.
Yet at one part, the guy admits he can't do anything with his dog as she's too young, and she doesn't say anything about it.
Yeah, and it's too early in her life to do those sorts of things really to that full extent yet. So, and that's another part of being...
The interview is disgusting to listen to and frankly pointless to be honest, but it still shows you how far Sappho is willing to push her agenda, going as far to break her own fucked up beliefs for the sake of it. The video would sit around on YouTube for a little over a week with a little traction, and then it soon caught the eye of many people, myself included. As Twitter went wild with the news, people make their videos and trash on her as expected, and generally things are looking to be another one and done drama piece. Stuff like this happens all the time, and even if it was extra messed up, most dramas die off within a few days after people say what they wanted to. However, Sappho was clearly reveling in the attention she was getting, as she would post a video owning all her haters to her channel as soon as the news went viral.
Hypnotist Sappho
Dog fucker
has joined your lobby.
Sappho's Twitter account was no different, as she would constantly tweet about the people trolling her and how they don't affect her, basically just basking in the attention she was now receiving. She would tweet out constantly referring to herself as Mom or Mama Sappho, already pretty creepy stuff given her beliefs, and reading the subject matter of said tweets don't make it any better. She would always try to put herself on a pedestal of sorts, presenting herself as some sort of mother figure to the godforsaken zoo community she's part of, saying how she views younger people as her own children and how she's glad they look up to her. Needless to say, the vibe she was giving off on Twitter painted her in an already worse light than YouTube, and that's saying something. On November 13th, Sappho would post a video titled Major Announcement ZNA, in which she explains her absence from YouTube was because she's starting a brand new organization.
I am working with a large group of people, between 17 and 20 active members of the zoosexual community, and that includes writers, artists, intellectuals, and pretty much everybody that you would need to start an organization from the ground up. I am very happy and proud to announce that I am the chairman of the first zoosexual rights organization in the United States and based in North America. And the name of the organization is Zeta North America, Zoosexuals Engagement for Tolerance and Acceptance, North America. And it is a legally incorporated 501c3 nonprofit organization.
She says ZNA is a 501c3 organization, yet this would be impossible as that type of organization needs to exist for 3 years in order to be even considered by the IRS as a nonprofit after registration, and ZNA was a brand new thing started by her and other people within the past couple weeks. After being called out for this, she would change most social media pages to say it was a pending organization, but people had already donated by this point, and even if it was only around $20, that's still money stolen nonetheless. She'd make a post lying to people once more about the application taking time due to IRS delays, but people already knew the truth by this point. The organization would fall apart quickly after its initial announcement, with multiple people packing their bags and leaving, and as of today the account has been closed on LibrePay, meaning that $20 is long gone. During late November to early December, Sappho would run a couple of Twitter spaces every now and then, mainly just talking with a bunch of other DJs and any trolls that would join in to mess with her. Along with the conversations that would go on in said calls, there was a clip of her doing some not so safe for work things with a bunch of other people either listening or participating. I can't play that call, but I'm sure you guys understand what message I'm trying to convey. She would post on Twitter how she always makes sure everyone is 18 plus before doing it, and tries to shift the blame onto those spreading the audio call as being the bad people and that it was just a poor attempt at character assassination. A classic example of deception and manipulation, blaming the other people despite you yourself being the main issue at hand. You gotta love it. At one point during all this trolling, Sappho got extra confident in herself and posted 2 pictures with a mask on, and so people were only given more of a reason to keep digging things up about her. A bunch of TikTokers got the idea that it was someone in the Air Force, who I will not be naming due to not wanting to be involved in any of this anymore, and so made a paste bin doxing her. Some even started to make TikTok videos saying they now have the full face of Sappho and were plastering it all over the place. It turns out, however, that this unnamed person was not behind the Hypnotist Sappho name, and people were just harassing some random person on the internet. So she would make a bunch of TikTok videos clearing her name and telling people to stop harassing her. On December 3rd, Sappho would claim that a 14-year-old named Julia had unfortunately taken her life after being bullied online. There was no evidence to support her claims, and Sappho would start to make tweet after tweet victimizing herself, saying things like how she was sobbing and drinking her sorrows away because of the situation, how she would go to Julia's funeral, and how this is all the trolls' fault for making this happen. Come to find out 3 days later, it turns out Julia was never gone, as she would post a video to her TikTok account saying her parents took her phone away. Sappho would double down and try to shift things onto the parents, and even say the account could have gotten hacked, but Julia would further prove it's her by posting a video of her dog that has been seen in other TikTok videos. After this, Sappho completely stopped talking about the situation entirely, despite supposedly spending the last few days drinking her sorrows away after hearing the news and not rejoicing once she found out Julia was thankfully okay. A few months later, YouTuber Brandon FM would make a video titled The Dark Side of Virtual Reality, in which a testimony from Julia would come out going over her experience after Sappho had lied about her passing away.
I woke up to rip, fly high, smoking that Paxu bozo. It turns out Sappho said I was dead online, and didn't even bother blurring out my last name. She said that my parents invited her to my funeral. My parents didn't even know who Sappho was.
The entire testimony is downright shocking to read and listen to, and I recommend you watch the video section when given the time, because it adds another layer to just how much she was put through when dealing with Sappho and other people. A cascading situation that came out of this was that one of Julia's friends, a 14-year-old named Serval, someone who idolized Sappho as she was all over their TikTok page, and even made a collab video with her at one point, believed Sappho's lie about the account being hacked. Julia contacted Serval to say she was okay, but Serval had a mental breakdown believing the message to be sent by a hacker, and posted their address on TikTok threatening their own life. It was reported to police, they performed a wellness check, and everything was thankfully okay. This is all because of Sappho lying that Julia died, and she never fessed up to this either, just ran away and pretended the situation never happened. On December 1st, someone would post a snippet from one of many Twitter spaces of Sappho seemingly defending the idea that a minor can consent.
A child still does not have the mental capacity to go through with safely.
Okay, so that very last part I disagree with.
This went under the radar at the time as the Julia situation was on the forefront and people were more focused on that, but on December 13th, Sappho admitted to being attracted to some minors and is maybe a MAP, or minor attracted person. We're not confirming nor denying it. She would make a bunch of nonsensical posts about age of consent laws and attraction and a whole bunch of other stuff, then basically confirms it saying she's attracted to some. Needless to say, this is pretty disgusting to read in real time, and it only gets more disgusting from here on out. Right after this, she would make an NSFW Twitter account open to the public. Anybody no matter the age can follow her, and of course she had a bunch of underage followers and never did a thing to thwart them. No blocking or privating the account, just letting kids follow her and being okay with it. She would make the expected posts you'd see on an account like that, and at one point posted links to artwork that she enjoyed. Those pieces of art included tags like cub and child, and given the account was made the very day she vaguely admitted to being a MAP, this leaves an awful taste in people's mouths. It doesn't take much to put two and two together here, and shows how slowly Sappho is losing her mind. The very next day on the 14th, Sappho straight up admits it and is into people under the age of 18, like it was some sort of thing to be proudly coming out about. She makes some very suspect post about it, trying to make it sound like some sort of heavy and important thing she was getting off her chest, but the people reading are left disgusted, but not shocked. Within 48 hours after her stunning and brave coming out story, her main Twitter would get nuked off the site because Twitter don't want to deal with none of that, and as she was bragging about trolls just mass reporting her and that she would be fine, her NSFW Twitter account would also get banned. Shit just got real, and after being banned on Twitter, she would set off to make her own personal hell to run on her own. Sappho would make her own personal Mastodon server called zetamu.club, and would continue her typical online posting on there like nothing ever happened. She would try to build a community on there away from public eyes and was going full force with it, linking other servers like hers in order to interconnect everyone and become stronger in numbers together. Unfortunately for her, despite being an IT whiz in the Air Force, it was found out she screwed up the server security and things were so bad the admins of Mastodon had to make an announcement telling others to not post any messages in there for fear of IP leaking exploits by trolls. People would seldom interact in her Mastodon server as they don't want to get their IPs taken by anyone, and so she would announce she'd make a new server with no timetable for when it'll come up. Now, during all this stuff going on, Sappho was constantly talking to a 16-year-old named Kylo on Twitter before the ban. She would make suspect post after post interacting with him, and people started to notice and get a really weird vibe from this. She would even buy Kylo food after his mother was being neglectful and not tending to the household, showing that their relationship was very close. Sappho would say it was nothing and that people were just being weird about it, but given the Grey experience from earlier, it's safe to say something was brewing behind the scenes. Those suspicions would be raised even further as DMs would leak of someone allegedly talking to Kylo, and in those DMs he would admit that he and Sappho were dating. People would start to dig more into this, and Kylo would make a post on the Mastodon server trying to quell the rumors and that it was nothing, threatening to ban anybody who talks about it or tries to dig any deeper. Another zoophile named Becca would come out and say that she and Sappho had gotten together and that it was time to admit it now that the secret was out. And so for the next 24 hours, people were under the assumption that the Kylo situation was just a red herring and nothing more. As expected, however, people were right as the very next day, Kylo would confess that he and Sappho were dating and post a bunch of DMs to prove so. The DMs show them two arguing as they break up with each other, and Sappho trying to guilt trip him to no avail. Kylo would even leak DMs between him and Becca, showing her getting mad that he leaked the truth out to the public, and in one screenshot even admits that he and Sappho sent pics to each other after she asked for them. More DMs would leak between Sappho and Kylo, showing things going down between each other, and even at one point she sent an NSFW audio clip that no way in hell am I playing in this video. It gets worse though, as Sappho had an alt account that she had posted on a couple of times, and at one point interacted with a 13-year-old on Twitter named Glitch, admitting in DMs at Kylo that whatever she wanted to do with them was highly illegal but extremely hot to her, which is downright chilling to even think about. Around the same time Kylo exposed Sappho, someone would find her Facebook page and spread screenshots of it around, with most identifying information blacked out. She would delete the Facebook page soon after, and so people were left somewhat in the dust. They had a lot of information on her, but still not a full face pic just yet. Soon after all this info came out, Sappho couldn't handle the heat and announced she was gonna put herself in a psych ward, but not before shitting on Kylo for exposing her. She says how buying him food was a sign of true care by her part, and that he was stretching things as far as he could just to make her look bad. Cue more blame shifting, and it's pretty obvious that she's extremely butthurt for getting caught dating another child, only this time since it was on everyone's radar, she has to take different measures rather than just pretend nothing had happened. She would still post about Kylo, saying how he manipulated the facts and how she won't let him play it off because he's actively trying to hurt her. She goes on about burning bridges and how she's actually a loving person and how she's disappointed in him, basically just trying to guilt trip Kylo into feeling bad for what he did to her. It's some pretty typical manipulation you come to expect from her by now, it ain't nothing new. Sappho would continuously post on her Mastodon server about her psych ward adventures, like how she's been prescribed medicines and getting therapy and all sorts of stuff like that. She even says that they apparently let people use their phones for a limited time where they're at, and pretty much reiterates that she's getting treatment in another post. She would even make a post about going to a psych ward and get flamed in the comments because nobody likes her, but the biggest news that came out of this slew of posts was her posting the pic from her Facebook account, finally giving people a face behind all this madness. Sappho would go on yet another tangent about Kylo, talking about how he was mean to her, how he's in good graces with people rooting for her downfall, calling him a special kind of awful and such. She would say how the one good thing from their relationship was that she was finally in a psych ward getting the proper help that she needs, while still shitting on him, trying to guilt trip him into feeling bad after sharing their personal info with others, and saying she would never do that again. More posts mauling at Kylo and trying to make him feel bad. You guys get the point already, so I don't gotta go much further into this. Hell, at one point the manipulation was working, as Kylo would make a friendly response and Sappho would completely drop the hate act and try to get on his good side once more. It's honestly pathetic to see this happening, but what can you do other than watch the fire burn? Things would take a turn in a very strange direction as Sappho would get into a spat with on all levels except physical I'm a wolf person Naya, with the two going back and forth on their respective sides, basically just calling each other pieces of shit and stupid. A few days later on December 30th, it would come out that Sappho joined a paraphilia recovery Discord server instead of staying away from any sort of social internet groups. The owner would confirm this himself in the server and on Twitter, giving her the chance that maybe she is trying to better herself and not be crazy anymore. This would be short-lived as she would be banned from the server only a day later after doing her usual love-bombing tactic on people. Later that day, Sappho would make a post on her YouTube community tab that she had been in the hospital for the past week and that she was trying to better herself, asking people to support her and all that sort of stuff. The comments are full of people telling her to leave the internet and such as they weren't falling for her act, despite her constantly fishing for people to treat her positively after her initial coming out video. At one point, she even commented on a video from YouTuber Lagovert to make a future one about her changing and recovering from her past self, basically just begging for anyone to fall for yet another failed attempt at manipulating people. Sappho would shut down her Mastodon server in the early hours of January 5th, 2022, but then go right into a new server now ending in .love instead of .club, basically fixing up all the server issues that we discussed prior in the video. Another photo of Sappho would leak online, and then things would start to shift off into a very strange direction once more. Late in the night on January 20th, someone would record an interaction they had with Sappho on VR chat, showing that she had returned back to her stomping grounds and tries to downplay all that she had done thus far for those willing to listen to her.
Since I haven't actually done anything, technically I haven't committed a crime. I just say I'm a zoophile and also I'm a map, so whatever. I look at artwork. I look at fucking artwork, that's all I do.
The very next day, she would nuke her YouTube channel and post a link to a website called Sappho RIP, basically just stating that the Hypnotist Sappho project is dead and that any social media accounts she had are being abandoned as she moves on with her life. A few days later, on January 25th, Twitter user Oliver would come out that Naya had apparently been dating Sappho, something that Kylo had joked about weeks prior, but nothing was taken seriously at the time. The leaked texts don't show off any sort of idea that the two were dating, but more so Naya defending Sappho in an argument with Oliver, talking shit about Kylo as well. Naya would then claim that she was running an op on Sappho, and proceeds to drop her apparent full name on Twitter for everyone to see, along with Becca's. People were under the impression that Naya just got in over her head trying to expose Sappho some more, but then the next day she'd make a bunch of posts basically confirming that yes, she was indeed dating Sappho and wanted her to better herself and whatnot. She even had a Twitter space where it's safe to assume people called her a bunch of names and such. Naya somehow managed to one-up herself and is now not only known as the weird wolf person, but also as someone who dated one of the most hated individuals on the internet in recent years, making herself even more of a laughingstock than when she was years ago on Vine. Things would be silent for a bit, then Sappho would make a post on Instagram on February 20th saying that with the help of the psych ward and her best friend that she was no longer a zoo or a map and that the Sappho project is still dead. Her best friend ended up being a 15-year-old, so who knows what's going on at that point. She just can't seem to help herself when it comes to talking to kids. I would end up making a video on her on March 26th going over some stuff that had gone down in the past few months, and a few days later on the 31st she would join my Discord server and privately message me. Now y'all know who I am when it comes to leaking DMs, I'm very against it, but there's always moments when that rule should be broken, and in this case it's one of those moments. However, when I tell you barely anything of substance went down, I really mean that. Our whole convo is basically us two talking shit to each other and her dropping images showing the psychiatric hospital she was apparently at. A week later on April 7th, Sappho would update her Sappho Rip website with a new message, basically just antagonizing everyone saying how she won't ever return, how law enforcement hasn't gotten to her yet, all while talking shit about people keeping an eye on her and telling them to cope and touch grass and yada yada. On April 10th, she would make yet another update to the site, making a long-winded post about people trying to hunt her down and figure out her every move. Basically like the last screenshot I just showed you, except in more detail. She would then revise the original April 7th post, both taking and adding stuff to it along with a post from a random Twitter account. When there was nothing connecting the Twitter account to Sappho, given the circumstances I decided to give it a look to see how it was. The Twitter account was very incriminating as the posts I'm showing you here show that this person was probably Sappho. Nobody would want to pretend to be them, and the posts that they're making sound like something she would say. Given what we're seeing and how the Twitter account has been reacting this whole time, it is extremely likely that this was Sappho. Nobody would pretend to be her and then make all these posts defending themselves or whatever. So for all intents and purposes, this is Sappho. She even went all the way to Kiwi Farms to talk shit to them and give them a bunch of hate and whatnot. Yeah, she was that mad at everybody trying to figure out what her next move would be. Also, the Twitter account was deleted sometime between June 5th and June 26th as I seldom kept up with it, so who knows what went down there, probably got cold feet and ran. Now I figured everything was simmering down once more and I could finally get to properly planning out this video. That is until someone messaged me on July 9th, telling me that Sappho had threatened to dox him. Their conversation is pretty cut and dry, but it's very clear that Sappho is threatening to dox this person, a minor as a matter of fact. This Twitter account Chaotic Joan messaged the person in question to ask them to message on Telegram an hour before, so I quickly put two and two together and figured out that this was Sappho's newest Twitter account. The message was deleted from the account, and this retweet that has since been unretweeted confirmed that further to me. I waited until they told me the doc she had was bullshit about a week later before contacting my next source, a source that didn't lead to anything major other than confirming she's still out and about on the internet and that she knew the person she was trying to dox was a minor. Sappho's new Twitter account was created that very month and would seldomly post, but a few of them caught my eye. One post has someone warning that this VR chat account Bappy Paws was an alt of Sappho's, and she would end up replying with a message obviously upset at the poster for what he was saying and such. She would then insult them and leave it at that, and soon after the account was deleted. Someone would make a fake Hypnotist Sappho account, and Sappho would immediately get hostile towards them, basically screaming to everyone that she's the real Hypnotist Sappho on an alternate Twitter account. I made sure to keep my eye on this account for any leads, but it turns out Sappho had other plans in mind surrounding her internet identity. On July 22nd, Sappho would upload a video titled Past, Present, Future on her now renamed channel, and it is 12 minutes of her basically pitying herself and trying to make others feel bad for her. The only part I could find that was interesting was her admitting to dating teens, which I mean, hey, that's one step in being honest about something the public already knew.
I have dated teens.
The rest of the video is literally just mauling at those who made videos for being a burden on society, and then she announces that she'd be rebranding.
I'm rebranding. I'll be using a new name, new avatars, new outlook, and I'm going to try to keep myself out of trouble. Genuinely. I'm studying and practicing hypnosis again. I'm pretty rusty right now because it's been a while, but that's why I'm studying. So this channel will pretty much be solely focused on that. And maybe some language stuff in the future because I'm studying some foreign languages. Anyway, I hope I've explained things well enough, and thank you for listening if you stuck through that. Bye.
The very next day, once more people were made aware of this video, everything was nuked and the channel was no more again. So much for the rebrand, I suppose. Back on her Twitter account, she mauled a bit at people who posted the upload or made fun of her because she's insecure as hell, but nothing out of the ordinary. Coyote Lovely would come into the mix once more, as Sappho would make a Telegram channel dedicated to deplatforming him off of YouTube, trying to get her 6 fans to mass report his YouTube channel, along with spreading his docs around and threatening to firebomb his house. She would post a screenshot of that hospital visit along with some meds she was on, and after antagonizing Coyote Lovely on and getting him to tell her that famous 3-letter phrase, she was all of a sudden the victim and started to threaten to sue him and kept making post after post trying to scare him with it. August 1st would roll by and she would unprivate her YouTube channel again and post a brand new video just mauling at her haters and trying to get the epic own on Coyote Lovely and another YouTuber named Tujo Panda. The video is literally a 26-minute coat fest and is Sappho trying to get the own on them, such as epically owning Tujo by stating how he got an anime profile picture wrong.
Like, hell, even one of her Telegram identities, if it can be believed, shows like a beautiful angel. Like, that's what she thinks of herself as. And it just...
Actually, that's the character Lucifer from Devilman Crybaby. I wouldn't expect you to know that. You're not the most intelligent or most in touch, but I'm sure you would know since you're a good Christian. At least you're making yourself out to be one. Lucifer is also known as an angel that fell from grace because he sided with demons against God. But it's okay. I know you're too, unintelligent to know these things. You're honestly pretty pathetic, and I'm starting to feel bad even making this video because I feel like I'm arguing with the equivalent of a toddler.
That's pretty much the entire video, just trying to own everyone and pretend she isn't a piece of shit. I would normally break things down further for you guys, but there is literally nothing of substance going on here. You can watch it on your own time, but for now we'll move right ahead. On August 3rd, Twitter user Eggy would post a video of them in Neo's VR with Sappho, along with a presumed fan given they have the Hypnotist Sappho skin on.
Oh, this one? It's an MPIM.
Oh,
it's in the Neos Essentials under, let's see, avatars, Anthro, MPIM. There we go.
So I saw it in VR chat like a couple times, but I just didn't know the name for it.
Yeah, they're called MPIMs, or
I think I know why you like MPIMs.
Yeah.
Chicken legs.
I think it's...
No, it's not the chicken legs. It's because all of the ones in VR chat have some sort of hypnosis spiral.
Oh, yeah, you're
I actually
right.
made one. I made like a dragon fruit themed one before.
Unfortunately, these ones don't have it. We'd have to do that custom.
Yeah, that's too much work.
Battery.
Yeah, a lot of logic.
This clip would result in her getting banned, and on August 5th, she would make a long-winded post on her Telegram channel about how she was gonna end it all because of said ban, posting a 5-minute audio recording of her crying, and even a picture of her in the car with her shotgun, apparently outside a hospital. After this, nothing has been heard from her, not even from her alt account. Now this is purely speculation from me, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Given all that we've gone over together and how manipulative of a person Sappho is, there are only 2 options on the table. Either option A, she faked her death after getting a bunch of flack for coming back, or option B, she did go through with it and is gone forever, but we'll never know for certain. One thing's for sure though, it looks like the Hypnotist Sappho Saga is officially over for good. That's the Hypnotist Sappho story from beginning to today. A giant mess of lies, manipulation, and mauling. What started off as someone with a couple screws loose in their head turns out to be something much more heinous. It's a strange feeling to see this chapter of the internet come to an end, but thankfully it seems that Sappho won't be going around on the internet terrorizing children anymore. What do you guys think about Hypnotist Sappho and the end of this chapter on the internet? Do you think she's truly gone, or is she trying to run away from the limelight once more? There's a lot to unpack and think about after going through all this, so make sure to tell me your opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys later.